Right, so we are now live on air. So if you're watching this live, welcome here with us. If you are not watching this live, if you're watching this the recorded version, welcome anyway. And this is the follow-up to our flipped learning course that we have provided through the stem.org, and we are now going to have a little think about some of the queries we've had in, or if we get any queries in now, we can talk about those too. But also I just thought it might be a good opportunity for us to actually run through the process. You've seen the introduction to flipped learning, you've seen how to create various resources, how to put those together, and how to actually get those out to the students. But I thought it might be nice if I actually did a flipped learning live type video and showed you how I can actually prepare this. So I'm going to say that it will probably take us about 20 minutes to go through this. If at any point during this broadcast you want to ask a question, then you can go onto Twitter and use this hashtag #StemFlip. And those questions will come into me, and Heidi, my assistant who's here with us today, not my assistant, Heidi is the science advisor who has been helping out with this project, is going to pass those questions on to me, and we'll answer those as we go. So we are going to work our way through the process of producing our resources and putting together a flip video from start to finish, hopefully, and it should take about 20 minutes, I think. Now, don't worry if you get lost throughout the process, or if I skip over something you weren't sure. Of course, because this is a video, you can pause it, you can rewind it. This live broadcast will be available on YouTube afterwards at the same address, so you can watch this back, okay? One of the first questions we actually had in was some people who were worried about the amount of time it would take to make videos and all that sort of thing. So hopefully this will show you how quickly you can put a video together. And of course, me and Heidi have just been talking before we started about the fact that flip video doesn't have to be a video of you talking about something. It could also be, you could set these students to go away and look at some bite-sized materials, BBC bite-size, and prepare in that way. It could be that you give them some photocopies. It could be they just use their textbooks to prepare. You know, flipping your classroom doesn't necessarily mean producing videos. It's just getting the kids to taking the knowledge at home independently, and then you act on that knowledge when you're in the schoolroom with them. But of course, this course is about the production of videos, so that's what we're going to look at today. So hopefully, if I can just find my I can rub this off here. We'll get to that. So remember, #StemFlip is the hashtag we're going to use if you want to get any questions in. Okay, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually now going to project onto the board behind me my iPad screen, so you can see the process that I'm actually going through. Now, I know this is not an ideal way to perhaps demonstrate to you what's going on the screen, but we just thought it was the best way that I could be talking to you and you could see what was happening at the same time. So what we're going to do is run through the production of a short video clip explaining to the students why we might want to use an indicator in a science lesson. Okay, so the very first thing I did before I was ready to go today was prepare myself a script. Now, you can see how much I've got written on this piece of paper here, not very much. What I've basically got is a very short storyboard of what I'm going to go through in this video. Now, if this was a real video I was producing for the kids, I would go into a bit more detail on this to make sure I'm hitting all the scientific points, I'm covering all the content that needs to be covered, okay? But today, I've just done a very quick storyboard. I'm not, probably not, unless it's brilliant, going to publish this video up onto YouTube afterwards. So what I've done is a storyboard just saying that firstly I'm going to do a quick introduction to my video. I'm going to move on and talk about the student objectives, what they are trying to get out of the video. I'm then going to move on and talk a little bit about what indicators are. I'm going to talk about acid and alkali indicators in particular. I'm going to do a quick practical demo. I'm going to talk about my demo results, and then I'm just going to say bye-bye and get ready for this in class. So that's what I'm working to today, a really rough outline. So as I say, there are going to be little bits and bobs that probably get included in this video that we're not going to actually put online, but that's the way it would work. So what do I want to do for my video? Well, the first thing I want to do is record a little introduction for my students. So looking at the apps I've got on the screen behind me, the one I'm going to use first of all is the camera right up in the corner there. So first of all, I'm going to turn my iPad camera on. I'm going to flip the camera around so it's actually facing me. Now, this is not a very flattering angle of me, but this is the one we're going to use today. I'm just going to tap it onto video mode. And so this is just my introduction to the kids, letting them know what the video is about. This is going to be a bit weird because I can actually, you know, see myself up behind myself there. So it's a bit strange for me because I'm looking at this camera and looking at that camera, and you'll look, it's a bit weird, but it'll be okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit record now. Now, as I hit record, obviously you're going to see my hand pulling back from the thing. It's not going to, there's going to be a little bit of a jumble while I start getting ready to go. So what I tend to do is, at the very start of the video, hit record, compose myself, and then give myself a thumbs up so I can tell where my actual proper bit of science content starts and where it finishes. That way it's really easy for me to visually scan through, find the thumbs up, I can edit the video, and that is the best way for me to actually, you know, trim off the fat at either end of the meat, so to speak. So you can hopefully see me now. I'm going to be talking to the camera on my iPad, which is down here now. So I'm now talking to the student. This is going to be my video. So I'm going to hit record there. My iPad is now recording, but I'm just getting myself ready, making sure the hair is sorted, that sort of thing. And I'm ready to start talking. So I give myself a little thumbs up. I know where to edit from, and then I can say, hi, and welcome to Pet Talk with me, Mr. Pepperell. In this video, we're going to be thinking about the use of indicators in a chemistry lesson. So there we go. I've now captured my little introduction and I'm ready to start putting that together. So I'm going to come out of my camera app and I'm going to go into the star up there. The little star app is iMovie. Now that is the app I use for editing my movies on my iPad. If you've got a different type of tablet, or if you're going to produce your videos on your laptop or your desktop, there'll be a different package you can use for that, but this is just the one I'm using on an iPad. I'm not saying it's any better or worse. I use an iPad, therefore I use iMovie to do my editing. So I'm going to go into iMovie, and the first thing it gets me to do is click on the little plus there to create a new movie. So it's saying to me, create a new movie there, and it gives me a selection of different templates I can choose if I want to have, you know, various styles to my video, but that's not something I'm particularly worried about. So I'm just going to create a new video now. And what comes up is, at the moment, my blank editing screen, nothing's going on, but over here I have got all of my videos on my iPad ready for me to use, including the one that we have just filmed. So if we have a look, if I click on that one there, we can see that if I put this one into the editing board, we can see the video that we have just filmed there. There's my little thumbs up, and I know this is now me if we had a little, there we go, that is our little bit of talking that we just did there. But I don't want just that thing there. I want my videos to have a common, you know, visual style to them, so the kids are always engaged and they know what's going on. There's nothing unexpected. Oh, do I need to look at this bit or do I not need to? So what I'm going to do is get rid of our video, just pull it away and get rid of it there, and I'm going to put in something which is common to all my videos, and that is a little background here. So what I've got already here is I have just filmed basically a white screen on my iPad with my Pep Talk logo at the top there. Now, there's nothing on there at the moment, but I can use that background to overlay the video we've just done. So it gives it a, you know, we've got our titles and we've got our little bit of talk in there. So what I'm going to do is go back to the very start of this. I can just drag this back and forth with my finger on the editing board there. I've gone back to the very start of it, and I'm now going to introduce the video we just filmed. So what I need to do is go to my recently added videos. There is the video we have just produced, it's at the top there, and I'm going to drop that in as a video in video, a bit like someone on the news. So you can see we've got our piece of white background plus my little bit of video that I've just filmed, which is over the top here, and I can move that about and stick it where I want. So I'm going to make it a bit bigger there. I'm going to put that in the middle, and we've now got it starting to look like something a little bit more professional. My white background, which is just a plain video of a white background, and my little bit of talking that I've just done. And if we start playing that, you can see they are now going to play with each other. I've just got the sound turned down here now, so you don't have to, you know, it'll start to feedback otherwise. So what I'm going to do is, like we said, I want to go through. I don't want all of the bit of me sorting my hair and pushing my glasses up my nose out. I want it to start from where the thumbs up ends. So what we need to do is just hang on, is just trim off all the bit of me getting ready at the start. So I'm going to go to a little bit of video. I'm just going to pull that along like this, and it's cutting off the bits that I don't need. I'm going to keep cutting it off. I'm going to keep cutting it off until I get to my thumbs up. I'm going to cut off. There we go, my thumb is up, and when my thumb goes down, I know that's when I need to start. I'm just going to move this along again to the start, so it's in the right position. So that's there. There's more thumbs up than there is anything else on this one, to be honest. So there we go. There's my thumb up is now down. I can now, it's quite hard because I've got my iPad lent on the thingy because it's a bit awkward for me. I'm going to pull that along there, and there's where the thumb comes up again. So now I've got my little introduction to my video. I'll put the sound up just so you can hear that for now. So, I don't know if you're picking up this, but I'm now just talking over the bit that we've done. So that is the introduction to our video that is already made. Now you might be able to see there on the screen that my introductory video is shorter than my actual background video, so I'd have a bit of white screen for ages. That's all right. All I need to do is tap on the white bit, the yellow editing bar appears, I can drag that back with my finger until the end of it lines up with the end of my video, and my first screen is done. Now I want to tell the kids about the objectives for the lesson. So I'm going to come out of iMovie, and I'm going to go back into another app called Keynote. And remember, any questions during this process, by all means, feel free to tweet us with those questions on hashtag STEMFlip, all one word. And Heidi's got a selection of whiteboards that she's going to write this on and hold them up for me, and I'll be able to answer those as we go. Or, you know, if you don't want to tweet it now, if you're not into using Twitter, by all means, comment on this video afterwards, or get in touch via the STEM group, which is obviously still live even after this is finished. So I'm now in my Keynote, which is basically the Apple version of PowerPoint. And what I've done is I've already prepared a PowerPoint slide with my objectives on, which are for this video, what are indicators, and how can we use indicators to identify a mystery solution. I've also included, again, a little bit of branding down the bottom, just because that's what the kids are used to, and if it's not a surprise, they can focus on the important part, which are those objectives there. So all I would need to do is, I'm just going to play that, and you can't see it, but it's now playing on my screen. I'm going to grab a screenshot of that on there. And I have now got those objectives ready to go. So I'm going to come back out of Keynote or PowerPoint or whatever you want to use to write your objectives, or you can just talk through it. This is just my personal style. Okay, so I'm going to drink a second. And I'm now going to go back into iMovie. As well as adding video into iMovie, you can also add into it some photographs. So down the bottom here, I've got my video files, my photograph files there. So I'm going to click on photos very quickly, and what we'll see in my recently added photos is, if I skip down to the very bottom of them all, the photo that we just took, which is our objectives for the lesson. So what I'm going to do is, because it would be quite boring just with a white screen with black writing on, I'm going to use one of the features of iMovie, and that is something called Ken Burns, which actually enables you to move a photo about on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into a start position. So for the start, I want the kids to get a good overview of the whole thing. So I'm going to have the title, indicators, what are indicators, everything's on the screen there. But then I want it to actually zoom in. So I'm going to pinch to the end position, and that's where I want us to finish, just with the objectives larger on the screen. So what will happen is, as we, if I just extend that second there, as we play this, what we can see is we're actually zooming in on the objectives as we go there. All right, but at the moment, that's just a silent white screen with black writing, which gets slowly bigger. What we actually want is some sort of narration over the top of it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to duplicate this just so it's a little bit longer, and I'm going to record some narration over the top. What have we got there, Heidi? So firstly,
how does flip learning go down with your students?
Well, flip learning goes down well with the students. It's a bit of a change for them to start with. Obviously, it's something they're not necessarily used to, but you've got to think, kids do spend a lot of their time now online consuming content, you know, using YouTube and that sort of thing. So it does go down well with the kids. It helps, really helped for me when I started doing this in school. I was doing it with another teacher in the department. So I was teaching the physics and another teacher was teaching chemistry. We both followed this sort of approach, and the kids got used to it pretty quickly. And once they saw the benefit of, you know, They didn't get a 10-minute section of me at the start of a lesson just explaining the topic before we got on and squeezed an experiment in. When they arrived with that knowledge on board and we spent the whole lesson doing the experiment, they realised the benefits to them. So yeah, it does go down well with the kids, and as long as you make a video which is, you know, engaging, they are going to engage with it, I think. So, you know, that's what I think about that anyway. So this is our objectives now. What I'm now going to do is record a little bit of narration over the top. So up here, I've got a little microphone that I'm going to tap onto. That gives me a little sound bar. You can see that's picking up my voice there and flashing along. It's going to give me a countdown, 3, 2, 1. It's going to start recording, and I can record some narration over the top of this. So here we go. I'm going to record a little bit of narration now. So it's going to give me 3, 2. By the end of this video, you should be able to tell me what are indicators and how can we use indicators to identify a mystery solution. So what I would normally do now is listen back to and check that, but for our purposes here, we'll presume that I've done it right on the first take. So we've now got our little bit of just some words on the slide and a little bit of narration over the top of it. Obviously, because I've duplicated and used the same thing twice, it skips a bit in the middle. If we were doing this properly, I would obviously, you know, make that a bit more seamless and spend some more time lining that up. But for the case of our video, we'll presume that we've done that there. So what we can now see is what we've got is, by the end of this video, you should be able to tell me what are indicators and how. That's Heidi banging the whiteboard in the background there. Right, so there we go. We've got our introduction to the video, and I'm just going to shorten that off because my talking didn't last as long as the image lasted for. So now we've got our introduction and we've got our objectives sorted. Now it's time to actually talk about the science a bit more. So in this case, what I'm going to do to talk about the science is just do a straight to camera explanation of what an indicator is and why we might want to use it. So I'm going to come out of iMovie, that's gone, and I'm going to go back into camera. I'm going to flip the camera around so it's facing me, and I'm going to do a quick explanation. I'm looking down at the camera on the iPad now, which is just down here on the desk in front of me. I'm going to look at my iPad camera just to give the kids a explanation of what an indicator is. So again, if this was a proper video and I'm delivering some serious science, I'd have scripted this and thought a bit more about what I'm going to say. But today I'm just going to give a really quick introduction to what indicators are. So I'm ready to go. An indicator is something that just gives us a visible sign that a chemical is present or not. One you may have come across is this one, universal indicator, which we can see is the nice green colour. But when we add certain chemicals to it, namely acids or alkalis, we get a visible colour change, and the colour we get relates to the chemical we are testing for. So that's all the introduction. That's all the sort of introduction to the science that I want to think about today. Obviously, don't query the science at this stage. It's just an example of some stuff. But what I want to do now is whack that back into iMovie again. So I'm going to tap iMovie. My stuff is still there from before. My most recently added video is at the top of my pile. I'm going to simply chuck that straight in there. So you can see that's going on behind me. I'm just skimming through it really quickly, talking about the thing. And let's just find out where the thumbs up was. Oh, I didn't do the thumbs up there. I missed it anyway. So it's on there anyway, ready to go. So you can see we go straight from our objectives, which I'm talking over, straight into our little explanation of the video there. If we just see that a chemical is present or not. One you may have come across is this one, universal indicator, which we can see is the nice green colour. So there's our little bit of science that we're introducing. Now, you don't really want to do anything longer, I'd say, than a minute of just face to the camera. Kids need something else to look at as well. So what I'm going to do is bring in a image of the pH scale for them to actually have a little think about this. So I'm going to go onto my photos this time. In my recently added photos, I am going to go down to the very bottom where my most recently added ones will be, and I'm going to bring in a picture of the pH scale. So now they can see that, and as before, you can see iMovie automatically makes it a bit movie and moves it about a little bit using that feature we discussed before. But what I want to do this time is move it in a particular way. So I'm going to position the pH scale at the acid end to start with. I'm going to make sure it goes to the alkali end by the end. So you can now see as it plays through, if I play it without any sound, you can see that's just as if the camera is panning over the pH scale, but I actually want to talk about that as well. So I'm going to go back into narration mode. Oh, click on there. get my finger on it at this angle, and it's ready to record now. So again, I'd have scripted this, but now I'm just going through it in quite a quick fashion. So 3, 2, 1. Universal indicator is actually a combination of a few different indicators which give us a distinctive red color if an acid is present, a green color if the solution is neutral, or a dark blue or purple color if the solution is an alkali. So I'm going to accept that straight away there. Now you've noticed obviously that my picture ended and my talking went on. That's not a problem. All I need to do is duplicate the image and it will go up until the end there. What I'll do is actually my talking does, if I just snip the end off, lines up quite nicely with that. So now we can see what we've got is universal indicator is actually a combination of a few different indicators which give us a distinctive red color if an acid is present, a green color if the solution is neutral. So we can see we've got a little bit of talking over something for the kids to actually look at, and of course you might want to tell them to pause this as we go and you can make some notes and that sort of thing. So next section is, let's just get down to the actual experiment now. So I've got here a couple of different solutions and stuff that we're actually going to use just to do a really quick demo. Again, all I need to do is pop my camera back on again, and of course this is a demo you might do or a little bit of instruction you might give in class anyway. Why not next time you do it, just film it and use that as your flipped video. You can film that as you're doing it. I quite often find that if I ask the kids to film me doing something, the whole class will go quiet and they want to all listen and see if I make a mistake and that sort of thing. So it's quite a good way to get the kids, and you know, you can then use that really quickly, slap some titles on it, put an objective at the start, and you've made your video with no extra effort whatsoever. So what I'm going to do now is just really quickly give a little explanation of what happens when I use my universal indicator. So again, I'm going to put myself onto video mode here. I'm going to start to record and say, here I have got a solution of hydrochloric acid, 1 molar hydrochloric acid, and we can see that if I add some acid to a beaker here, you can see that it just looks like water now. It's a mystery solution, but the universal indicator, if I add the universal indicator to it, gives us this really distinctive color. The same thing is I use a solution of sodium hydroxide. I'm going to put some sodium hydroxide into my little beaker, obviously wearing safety spectacles normally, safety first. A little bit of sodium hydroxide there. I'm going to again add some universal indicator into that, and we will be able to see that we get this distinctive purpley blue color. So we can see an indicator visibly indicates to us what's going on. It doesn't tell us what acid it is, doesn't tell us how much acid there is or the concentration. It just indicates to us, is it an acid or an alkali? So there we go, we filmed our little bit of science, which I can now just drop straight back into iMovie. So I'm just going to put that acid out of the way a second before I spill it in my lap. And what I'm going to do is, so Chris says, usually do I have a script next to your iPad when I record and then read from it? Well, yeah, Chris, what I do tend to do is have the iPad on. If it's a straight to camera bit, I'll have a little read through first of all, and then I will, you know, make sure I've got the gist of it right, and then just deliver it straight to camera. If it's a bit of narration, then it's absolutely fine. You've got your image on the screen, your photo, or your text on the screen. You can literally just read it straight off of your script. But yeah, I will have the script next to me as I go, but what I tend to do is have a little read through it, make sure, yeah, okay, I know what I'm going to say, chuck it down, hit record, and off I go. So I've got the script next to me, but I'm not, you know, kids don't want to watch you sat there reading from a book like that, you know, they can do that themselves. So have a little skim through. It's best not to script it word for word, I find, because then if you get a word wrong, you're going to stumble and you think, oh, I've got to start again, I didn't say exactly what I've got written down. Sometimes it's better to have it a little bit looser so you can actually, you know, ad-lib a bit and add in stuff that you would add in class, because that's what kids are used to. So we're going to go back into iMovie again now. I'm just simply going to drop in my little demonstration that we made straight into there. So what the kids are going to get is our original, if I just skim all the way back through, our little talk about the pH scale there that we mentioned before, telling us what we're going to see. The solution is how to say. Here I have got, and then I'm going to go straight into my little demonstration and actually show them what goes on in the experiment and show the demo. Obviously, I wouldn't set this up at a low angle to pick up on my double chin and that sort of thing, and I'd have a bit more arranged here. For our purposes, it's just a quick demo that I can then put straight into my video. Okay, so we can see in the video exactly what you'd want them to see in class, but you might not want to spend time doing that in class. So we've done it, we've seen the results. Now I want to think about, just talk about those results in a bit more detail. Got any questions there, Heidi?
Jenny, do most of your students watch the videos, and what do you do about the students that don't watch?
So I think we talked about this in the 4th one of the videos. Yeah, it is a problem. You've spent an hour making a video, you've got a whole lesson planned based on the fact that the kids have got this knowledge, and then they don't watch it, and then what do you do for your hour? Well, what I found was pretty quickly, to start with, they did engage and they did watch the videos because they were interested because it was something a bit new. And what I would do with the kids who hadn't watched the videos when they arrived was said, well, you need this knowledge, but we are now doing the extension and the exploration and the experiment and that sort of thing. You still need the knowledge. So luckily in my school, before we had laptops available in the classroom, I would get the kids who hadn't watched it sat on their own with their headphones and a laptop. They'd have to do it then in the lesson, or they'd have to just go to a textbook and read through and make the notes and find out the same knowledge that everyone else had gained from the video. And you might think, well, that defeats the object. They're just doing the same thing in class anyway. But what I found was the kids who were sat with the textbooks or the laptop pretty soon got fed up with just sitting with the book while everyone else was actually doing something pretty cool in class. We'd be doing a good experiment and exploring stuff in ways we never would have done before. And fairly quickly, you did find that they did all engage and start doing the video. So it's a case of making the alternative actually something they want to do. The stuff you do in lessons, it needs to be exciting, and therefore they want to do the videos. They want to be prepared so they can join in with that stuff. Okay, obviously I'm not going to think this video we're making today is going to get anyone excited and want to watch it, but it's the principle. If you can make something they want to engage with at home, they've got the knowledge when they arrive, and then you can spend your time together applying that knowledge to something a bit more exciting and useful to them. Okay, so we've now dropped back to the video, we've dropped our little explanation in. You can see me talking about it there, but I want to explore that in a bit more detail. But like I said, I don't want 5 minutes of me just talking to the camera like this is at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pH scale back in again. So I'm going to go down here, I'm going to find the pH scale, I'm going to put the picture of the pH scale back in, because that is basically what we were talking about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the moving bit about off of it, and I'm going to duplicate it a few times because I think it might take me a little while to talk about this, and I am going to do another quick bit of video to put over the top of this pH scale. So I'm going to drop out of that again. I'm going to go into camera again, and really quickly I'm just going to say to the camera, okay, if you add universal indicator to an acidic solution, you get this characteristic red colour. If the acid is slightly weaker, say pH 3 or 4, it might be more orangey, etc. Give a little talk about the colour that we get with an acid. I'm going to stop that one there because that's one video that I want, and I'm going to start it again and do the same thing for a alkali. So if the solution you are testing has got a high pH of 12, 13 or 14, you are going to see this distinctive bluey purpley colour. So I've got 2 little extra video clips that I can use there, and I'm going to use those over the top of that pH scale to make it a little bit more interesting. So first of all, we're going to put the acid video in. So I'm going to drop this one in, picture in picture, in the same way that I did before. So you can see that I'm going to appear just there over the top. Well, that doesn't look very nice. I'm going to, oops, lazy. I'm going to just make that a bit smaller and put it down at the acid end of the pH scale. So they should be able to see exactly what I'm talking about there. So I'm going to talk over that. Let's just see how much of that I need. It actually goes on quite a long time. I'll duplicate this so we've got some more images to talk over. So at the start of this bit of pH scale, you can see that I'm talking about the acid solution over the top of the acid part of the pH scale. Then afterwards, I'm going to drop the second bit of video in, which was our alkali piece, and I'm going to put that, this time, at the alkali end of the pH scale. So what you'll see here is now, as we go through this, I'm talking about the acid bit down at the acid end, and then when that video finishes, any second now, which it will do, I move down to the alkali end and talk about the other bit. So it just makes it a bit more visually interesting. It's the same science. I could just sit there and tell it to them face to face, but it just makes it a little bit more interesting by moving that video about, and that gives them all the explanation that they need for using indicators in the science lesson. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to explain it the way I've explained it today, but again, this is just for demonstration purposes. What have we got there?
I've just had
I do.
on average, how long does it take for you to produce a flip learning video?
Well, it all depends. I mean, what I'm doing lately is I'm favouring a lot more the stuff, like I said, demoing something in class, recording it, putting some titles over it, and using that at a later point in lesson. And that obviously doesn't take. I can do that in 30 seconds. That might take me. If you're making a really complicated video where you're using an interactive whiteboard and you've got animations, and I'm explaining something like life cycle of a star, it could take me an hour or an hour and a half to do it, which sounds a massive amount of preparation. But of course, if you then divide that up by however many times you use that video, you know, when I was teaching physics last year, I would be using the same video as 3 classes. So you can think, well, maybe that's half an hour per class preparation then, and I'm going to use it again next year. And that video has then become a resource that you can use time and time and time again. And, you know, one of the best things for me has been making the videos and giving them to my kids. But then I get comments from kids all over the country, kids in Scotland, and then I'm down in Exeter in the southwest, by the way. I get comments on my videos from kids all over the country saying, wow, thanks, Mr. Pepperell, you don't teach me, but that's been really helpful for my exam and stuff. So if I think about the amount of time divided by the number of kids who've watched it, it's not very much. And also, you know, not only is it helping the kids, it's giving me the opportunity to be here talking to you guys today. So I think it's a worthwhile investment, you know. I smirking at that, but I think it's been worthwhile doing that just so I've got to share it with you guys. So what have we got so far? Let's just have a quick recap of our video so far. If I skip all the way back through this, we had our introduction at the start where I talked about what was going to happen. We had our objectives there. We did a little bit of talking about what indicators were. We showed people the pH scale and I did some narration. Then we did our little bit of an experiment and we saw some things happen. Then we talked about what our observations were over the top of another image of the pH scale. All that we've got left to do now is just sum up what's gone on, basically. So again, I'm going to come back out of iMovie. I'm going to go into the camera. I'm going to flip the camera around so it's looking at me. And I'm going to say to the camera there, and that is everything we need to know about the use of indicators in a chemistry lesson. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to tweet me or email me, and I'll get back to you ASAP. That's it for this episode of Pep Talk. Thanks for stopping by. And of course, a time-saving thing is I didn't have to think about that then. I say exactly the same thing at the start of the video, exactly the same thing at the end of the video, every single time. So that's no preparation there. I know exactly what I'm going to say for that one. So we've made our little summing up video. I'm now going to go back into iMovie for the final time. Okay, I am going to put my little bit of background over just so it looks a little bit more, I hesitate to use the word professional, but it looks a bit more styled than before. I'm going to go back to the very start of that up here, and I am going to drop over the top of that the last piece of video that I just made, which was my sign off. I'm going to put that over the top of this, cut away, oops, sorry, need to extend that out a bit. This to work. There we go. So I'm going to drop my last piece of video in just here, over the top there, like that. I'm just going to position it into a nice position on the screen. Whoop, and there we go. We have now got our whole video complete. Now, if I was doing this properly, what I would now do is go through and add in some nice transitions between the slides, make sure I've trimmed off the, you know, talking at exactly the correct point, make sure there's no high knees dropping whiteboards in the background and that sort of thing. But what we can see now is if I just go through this really, really quickly, I'm not going to play you the whole video, but we can watch it almost in high speed here. At the start, we've got titles and me just saying, welcome to the video, this is what we're finding about today. I'm then going to skim along, I go to a slide with my objectives. That was just a text slide, like a PowerPoint slide, and I've put some narration over the top of it. We then go on to a quick bit of sciencey content. Now this again might be an interactive whiteboard picture, a picture you've grabbed from the internet, it might be you talking, it could be anything at all, just with you talking through the scientific content of the lesson. And of course, the more you mix it up, the more you mix interactive whiteboard with an image, with a picture of you talking, with a demonstration, with a clip of you out and about, the more interesting it's going to be. Then we went to a quick explanation of what the pH scale was, and then we went to our little demonstration where we worked through the practical, and we can see that going on there. And then we went to a little explanation of our results. and we talked about those, and we moved the video about a bit just to make it a little bit more interesting. And finally we had our summary and, you know, thanks for stopping by type bit, and that's my video made. So that's taken me there 38 minutes whilst explaining it. If I was just making that, that probably would have taken me 5 minutes to have actually knocked that out and prepared that in class. And of course, if I'd filmed the demonstration in class, all I would have had to have done is add some titles and a little hello, here we are, and bye-bye, thanks for stopping by bit, and that video would be done there. So all I need to do now is upload that onto YouTube and share that video in whatever platform you're using. Now, you might have a VLE in your school, like Frog or Firefly or something like that, which you share it. You might be a Google school and you're lucky enough to use Google Classroom. You can use some online learner information management systems like Edmodo or something like that. Or you can just write down the YouTube link on a bit of paper and give it to a kid. Any way you get it to them, that's fine. And of course, now what we need to think about is, have they watched the video? People have questioned about, you know, how do you be sure that they've watched the video? So what I would ask the kids to do is make notes during the video. I don't want to see the notes, I want to mark the notes, but I might have said during that video there, you know, I might have paused it and said at one point, pause me now and just tell me what colour would you expect the solution to turn if it was acidic, and what colour would you expect to turn if the pH was 7. Write that down for me. And then when they arrive, I will check their books to see that they've answered those questions, make sure they actually understand the stuff that we're doing, and then we know we're ready to move on, okay? And of course, if they got to that part of the video and didn't understand it, it's not like in class, they can't pause me and then rewind the video. They can rewind it and watch it again until they get those facts done. So you need some sort of way of checking they've actually watched the videos. And it might be that you have an entrance ticket in class, you might want to do a few multiple choice questions at the start of the lesson, you might have an exam question that you get them to answer, just something to assess the fact that they actually do understand the stuff that you've tried to get them to understand. And I think the research says that if they can answer 3 multiple choice questions about any topic, they've got a understanding. You know, if they can answer 3, they can probably answer 10. If they can't answer 3, they don't know it. You need to go back over it some more. So that is the basically run through of making the video there. What I might even do is, you know, I might post this one up on YouTube and I'll put a link to it on the group just so you can see what actually happened and you can see all the rough edges to it, but you'll get a gist of what we actually did make then. Heidi has now got a raft of different questions for us. So first of all, Becky's asking, do we ever have an issue with students not having internet access at home? Yeah, that can be a problem, and you know, luckily for us where we are, a large percentage of the students do have access to the internet, but we have also got a school library which has computers, and we have also got ICT suites that kids can use at dinner time and after school and at break time and that sort of thing. So, you know, I don't really accept not having internet access at home as an issue, because we do have internet access that they can use in school. But, you know, it can be a genuine problem, and of course, there are ways you can get kids access and internet access. Pupil premium money can be used to provide ICT support for students. But at the very minimum, if the kids really can't get to the internet and look at your videos, you can provide them with a textbook that does contain the same sort of information. But it's very unusual that even if a student's not got any access at home, they can still get to it while they're in school, and that does mean they've got to spend half hour in school doing their homework, but you know, maybe that's not a bad thing anyway. So hopefully that's that. Right then, so does flip phone work better with a particular group of students? You know, could it be that it works better with older students? Does it work better with higher ability or lower ability students there? It depends. Obviously, I've only used this technique mainly at GCSE, so we're looking at 14 to 16-year-olds, a little bit at Key Stage 3 as well, but a lot of the work that's been done in the States in particular, it's very successful with whatever they would call their lower school students over there, so their primary age students has been used there. Obviously, you don't want to aim your video at a really high level if it's not going to be for a high level class, but it could be that, and what I have done a couple of times in the class is, if I've been covering, say for example, I remember I did a video about refraction, I have talk through, if you're familiar with the physics curriculum or not, I don't know, but this is an example. If the kids were doing core science, they needed to know the basics about refraction, the fact that light changed direction as it went through a glass block, and that sort of thing. If they were doing triple science or separate GCSE physics, they also need to do the calculations. So what I did was I said, if you're doing core science, what I want you to do is stop the video now and answer these questions for me. You've gone as far as you need to. If you're doing triple science, keep watching. There's a couple of extra things we need to talk about. So you can tailor your videos, you know, and stop them at certain points and get people to stop watching then if they need to. And of course, you've just got to think about your audience. It's no good thinking I am going to make myself a video about energy in food webs, and that's going to work for my year 7s and my year 11s. You've got to think about it. So you might need a couple of different videos there. But in terms of engaging with the videos, it's not going to be a case with ability groups, I don't think. You know, lower ability or higher ability are going to engage with them in the same way if you make them engaging. That's the thing. You've got to think about, oh, I've made this brilliant video, no one wants to watch it, but it's actually degree level, and that's why no one wants to watch it. It's got to be fun and interesting and pitched at a level which makes it accessible by them. Okay, so Chris has said, please can you share any good places you use to get calculation sheets of physics to use in extra lesson time? Well, one of the ones, I mean, the main one I would use is the AQ, I mean, we're at AQA, so just the AQA equation sheet there. Now, I don't know if you're actually meaning, do you mean examples of questions or the actual equations? What a really good thing to do is, if the kids, I mean, they've obviously got access to a standard exam board equation sheet, what I would think is a really good thing to do is they rock up at the lesson, yeah, you can use the equation for kinetic energy now, you can make me up some examples. So one of the things you can do is get them in the lesson making up some examples, which they can then share amongst each other. So they've got used to using the equation at home, they know how it works. You can spend a bit of time, go over it, a couple of examples, see if they can rearrange it, and then say, right, now you're going to make up some examples here for me. Or even better, if you've got access to IT that the kids can use in school, such as mobile tablets or iPads or laptops with cameras, you can say, right, we understand how the question works. I want you to go out now and make me a bank of video questions. So get them outside, run in, and then say, right, we ran at 10 meters per second there, my mass is 60 kilograms, what is my kinetic energy? Or I had a kinetic energy of however many joules, I ran this fast, what would my mass be? And get kids to actually now demonstrate their understanding by making their own flipped resources, which you can then use with other classes, and that saves you a bit of work there. But I don't know whether you're asking, Chris, then whether you meant a list of the equations we use or some example equations. But I mean, I think a brilliant way is getting kids to come up with some examples.
Maybe
there.
If that hasn't answered the question, Chris,
yeah,
you could just
give us a shout again, Chris. That's fine. So, how does flipped learning impact? Sorry.
How does flipped learning impact on
student learning? Well, I mean, like I said, one of the biggest problems we had when I first started this was the fact that our, you know, we were doing well with CD conversions, and our middle of the row kids were doing all right, but the bottom end kids needed more time to be helped, and the top end kids needed to be extended more. And I wasn't getting the time to do it in class because I was just delivering the lesson content and then making sure we all understood that, and then we've got a practical to do, we have to rush through that and that sort of thing. And by flipped learning, what I found was I had more time to assess what the kids knew because they rocked up at the class. I had a couple of tasks ready for the extension kids to do, and they could go away and do that, which then gave me time to sit with the kids who were having problems, the lower ability kids, and help them to progress through it and make sure they had an understanding of it. Okay, the fact that the higher ability kids, I then had time to extend and push them further, meant that I started doing AS and A-level work with them, as well as the normal GCSE work. So I think it made the lessons more interesting for them because the higher ability kids were being challenged more, the lower ability kids were being scaffolded more, the kids in the middle could then move on and do the higher ability stuff as well, and it just meant that everyone's learning was getting pushed forward because it wasn't a case of I was cramming the interesting activities into the lesson after I'd explained the content. The content was out of the way. We had time then to do the more exciting stuff, to go outside and run around and, you know, design it. I spent a lot more time actually designing experiments, you know. The kids came in and we'd done redshift. I'd said you'd gone home, they found out about the Doppler effect, they found out about redshift, they could do it, and they came in and I gave them a pile of junk, which was, you know, batteries and buzzers and bits of string and springs and all sorts of stuff, and I said, right, pretend now you're explaining the Doppler effect and redshift to year 9, there's all this rubbish, build me something to do it. And we spent the entire lesson of them putting together little circuits, which brought in another bit of science as well, and they designed it, and they've designed you know, buzzers on strings that they spun around their heads, or they designed little squeaky balls that they threw, and they'd see if the pitch would change as they threw it. And you know, stuff like that was an exciting thing for them to do, and it wasn't them just sitting and listening to me. So they found that a lot more interesting. So hopefully, you know, it added to their learning. And also, it's not just the learning, they then felt more engaged and excited about science because they knew exciting stuff was going to happen in the lesson. So it was getting them excited, as well as, you know, you now know this, whereas before you didn't. They were now enthused about science in general. Okay, next one.
Is there any evidence for the benefits of flipped learning?
Yes, there are. I personally have not. I've got anecdotal evidence for this, but there are a lot of you know, more formal studies that have been done and have demonstrated the you know, beneficial effect of doing it over not doing it. We can certainly check out those. I've got a list of those. We can certainly post those on the discussion board on the group afterwards. I myself have always thought I'd like to do a little bit of research here. What I'm going to do if I'm teaching 2 classes the same topic, I'm going to do this with one class and do the flip learning with the other class. But of course, there's the ethical issue there. I anecdotally know that the pupils I have make better progress and enjoy the science more when we are doing the flipped model, the flipped approach to it. So I haven't wanted, from an ethical point of view, to think, right, you kids over there, I'm not doing it with, you kids over here I am, because I don't want to disadvantage, you know, even if it's anecdotally, I don't want to disadvantage the kids who aren't receiving that model there. So yes, there has been research done about that. Yes, I have got links for that and references you can check out on there, but I'm fairly certain if you Google that, you'll find those yourself, but I will post those to the STEM group afterwards when I've got those with me. So how do you manage differentiation with flipped learning for very low ability? So I don't know if this means, if you're asking me there, viewer, if you're asking me whether or not this is differentiation within the video or whether there is differentiation within the topics in class. What I've done for differentiation of videos is, as well as doing a video which will address a particular lesson that I'm giving, you know, so for example, I'm trying to think of one now. We might have been doing about radioactivity, for example, when I'm talking about radioactive isotopes and half-life and that sort of thing. It might be the fact that the kid thinks, I don't know what he's talking about, isotope, I've never even heard the word. Well, what I also do, in addition to the main lesson video, I've also, and I know this sounds like more work, but I've got a library of, the projector's gone off now, so you can see me a bit clearer. I've got a library of videos just about little sciencey topics. So I've got a video which is just what is an atom, a video is what are the different forms of energy, a video what is the isotope. So what you can say to the kids is, watch my half-life video for today. If you've got problems with it, why not check out one of the other ones? You've got the isotopes video there, you can just check that. What is an atom video, what is radioactivity video. So once you've got a bit of a library, of course, you can refer to those within it. And of course, you can also just provide them with resources. I always provide my kids with a glossary of terms for each particular unit. They've also got their textbook there. So, you know, the video is really delivering the basic content that everyone needs to know. It's when they then get into class that your differentiation really starts in terms of the activity. And if you've got 3 or 4 different activities based on how well they've understood the topic, and of course your little entry ticket when they arrived is telling you, actually, yeah, everyone got on with this, but you kids over there didn't get this question right. I want you to try this activity out and then move on to the one that everyone else is doing. You know, it's all about designing a raft of activities in the classroom that they can then pick or choose from when they arrive. Chris meant practice problems for students. So when he said about before about the list of equation there, Chris is saying to us, how do I get a, you know, bank of practice questions or problems for them to show? Well, it's just a case, really, I will pluck them from past exam papers, I will pluck them from textbooks, or just make them up as I go. I mean, what I also use is test-based, which is I know specific for AQA that I use, and that is an online thing, but there are things like test-based, there is Exam Pro, there is Alfiesoft is something different. They are all things that your school can subscribe to, but of course there's also things like test resources you can go on and you can get a list of problems there. There's loads of places there. I just tend to make them up as I go, to be honest. A lot of the time when kids arrive, I'm quite happy just to make questions up as I go, or just pull them from the textbook. But I know what you mean. It would be really useful if there was some sort of big centralized bank that we could all pull from here. So Chris, if that's something you'd like to think about setting up, an online repository of physics questions we use, that would be brilliant as well. Any more, Heidi?
No, I think we've done them all, actually.
So that's all the questions we've got there. And I mean, this session tonight, this little follow-up session, which I'm really pleased, I did actually bet Heidi that no one would be watching this today, so I'm really pleased that we've had.
And I was right.
How many did you say?
There was 21 people.
You did say 21, and there were 21 as well. So, this has really just been a chance to answer those questions and to give you a bit of a run through. I know this has been really rushed running through that video, but it's given you a chance to see how we actually can quickly put these things together. And the main important thing is it doesn't have to look like something that Brian Cox has knocked up in the studio and he's been and stood on top of the mountain, oh, look at the stars and all. You don't have to do all that. The kids want to see you. You are the best resource those kids have got. And if it is in your own style of delivery, which mine is very different from my colleagues, I'm sure they wouldn't do things in the same way. The kids want to see you explaining things in the way that you explain things. They don't want to see a really polished, all special effects. It's nice if you can mix it up. And, I live by the beach, luckily, down here in Devon. So when I'm at the beach, if I, see someone surfing, I can think about the energy transfers and I can film then. Or if I go for a walk up on Dartmoor, I can think about that the rocks are made out of granite and what does that mean compared to the rocks that are made out of limestone. It's just about using what's around you to make something interesting but at the same time relatable to the kids. So the thing is, we'll keep checking that hashtag, which was hashtag STEMFlip there for those responses. We've obviously still got the groups on the STEM website, stem.org.uk, that you can still post to. Give us a shout. The group is going to stay open. What we'd really love is to see on the STEM groups some videos that you've had a go at making, be that a little demo in class that you've recorded, be it a little thing. Another thing I've started doing a lot of lately is when I am walking around in class with the kids, and this sounds a little bit creepy perhaps, but as a kid asks me a question in class, like Chris said, it might be an equation question, what I'll do is quickly just, if I get it back on the screen behind me, I won't bother the rest of the one actually, because the projector's off now. I will open up my interactive whiteboard app and the kid will say to me, oh, can you just explain how to work through this equation? And I'll actually write it and hit record as I'm doing it, record my, just as if I'm explaining it on the whiteboard. Or you can even do this, put your camera and film it on the whiteboard. So the kid will say, I don't understand how to work out the power. And you can just say, hit record as you're explaining it to the kid who's actually sat there, and just say to him, well, we can see that the bulb was transferred 200 joules of energy there, and it took the bulb, 50 seconds to do that. That was the amount of time, remember. Turn that into minutes, drop in your helpful things. If it was in minutes, you've got to turn it back into seconds, rather. So I'm going to do 200 divided by 50, so I can work out that my the power of my bulb is 4. 4 what? Yeah, 4 watts, that's right. So we're going to work that out there, and then hit stop. I've recorded the actual process, and then upload that. If one kid had a problem, it's a chance are quite a few kids might have a problem. So I walk around and actually record myself explaining frequently asked questions to kids and then post those as well. Because if one of the kids wants to know it, chances are other kids want to. I also use a thing, an app that I got recently on my iPad called Spreaker, which is a speaker with an R in it, which is just an audio recording. So as I'm walking around, a kid asks me a question and it's not necessarily something visual like that. I might say, well, actually, conduction works by, and hit record. I record myself, give my explanation. The kid might be chipping in and asking me more questions that I can then answer again. Put that up online on the website as well. You can put that on YouTube with no visuals, but the audio, the kids can use that as well. So, there's all sorts of ways of making these things available, and the best way to do it is the best way for you, basically. So, I can see people that are starting to leave now. We've done our hour, which is 5 o'clock in almost, in all fairness. So, if you've got any more questions, the boards are still open on stem.org.uk. The hashtag STEMFlip, we will be checking that as well. Or you can obviously comment directly on this video, which will now be available forever, If you should, for any reason, want to watch this again, this will now be at YouTube at the same address. You'll be able to find that. Watch it again, post comments on the STEM board. But if not, I'm just really chuffed that some people actually have watched this, and Heidi has won the bet because I said no one would watch it today.
Hey.
So thanks really to stem.org.uk for making it possible to deliver this bit of, you know, I hesitate to say CPD, but it's a little bit of an insight into the way that I do things. And hopefully it's useful to you. There are so many different banks of videos you can use, Khan Academy and GCSEscience.com, and all these things are available for you to use. You don't have to make your own videos, but the kids will appreciate it if you do. So thanks for coming. Thanks, let's just say hello to Heidi as well. Look. Thanks to Heidi for manning the Twitter account and writing the stuff on the boards there. Thank you for taking part, and if you've got any more questions about this, don't hesitate to tweet me or email me, and I'll get back to you ASAP. Thanks for stopping by.